What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'll break down what's happening to the overall market thus far, what's happening with other things affecting the markets when it comes to earnings and such, when Jerome Powell is going to be speaking again tomorrow, and what's happening with the NIO stock share price. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice. And then don't forget about the Moomoo link. The offer ends very soon. You deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. You deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 free stocks. The offer ends in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to NIO. Looking at NIO so far, the share price is showing quite a bit of strength after getting this very, very big bar today, and it's actually outperforming the market, or at least it was outperforming the market at that time. On top of this, NIO is up over 5.29%, once again, still beating the market, and it's in a very, very good place. Now, this does suggest that there could be more upside coming. Might pull back just a little bit, retest our 50 EMA, then continue to push up towards that $6 area. With this uptrend being established on NIO ever since its earnings, this is a good sign of strength, and we're still seeing earnings affecting NIO to this day. With good earnings coming out, this is still helping NIO despite some bad news that came out and showing a lot of strength. So I'm going to break down more details about this. But I first want to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, March 7th. Don't forget that at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, an hour before the market opens, we have initial jobless claims coming out. We want this to be between 215 and 217,000. And after all the jobs numbers come out, at 10 o'clock a.m., we have Jerome Powell testifying in front of the Senate's committee. He could cause a little move here and there, but usually when he speaks 2 days in a row, the first day is more volatile and the second day is not as crazy. So we might see a lot of sideways price action as he speaks. Then later on, as the day goes on, we just have a couple of bill auctions and consumer credit change coming out. But everything else is quite minor. Nothing else will be too crazy. We just have Powell giving another testimony, and that's pretty much it. On top of this, when Powell was speaking for today, so he spoke in front of the House committee. Overall, he didn't really say much today. He pretty much just reinforced the position that the Fed is not ready to start cutting yet. They have to continue to look at the data. But he did say some things to help the market pump, such as he said that when asked about if a recession is coming, that they can't truly say that. And right now, they're not really forecasting one as of right now. However, and he did say that could change, but that's what they're seeing. He also mentioned that they can't say much about a soft landing, but so far, economic data is better than projected, and the economy is quite strong in his opinion. Now, when it comes to this, tomorrow he's going to be testifying in front of the House, not the House, sorry, the Senate's committee. So we'll see what else he has to say. But once again, guys, usually when he speaks, the second day, not as much happens. For earnings, we just had Victoria's Secret and Inovio announced their earnings. Everything else was quite minor. So for Victoria's Secrets, overall, we saw the shares continue to drop because their overall forecast was not the best. They're forecasted only about $6 billion for the year. That's actually a little bit below the $6.19 billion estimate. So weak expectations ended up leading to weak outcomes. That's not the best for them. Inovio is kind of flat right now because they're still recovering from the big drop we saw thus far. If you look at what's happening so far compared to what we saw last year, we actually did about 25 million in revenue versus 54 million last year. So we're seeing a big drop in revenue. EPS is also weaker now compared to last year, as there is higher demand for a lot of their products as 2022 to 2023 was continuing. So with this potentially playing out, right, with this happening, it's not the best of news for them. This is why the share price is kind of flat. But there's not much coming out for them, and the share price is not really making much of a move. Anyways, when it comes to other things out there, NIO announced their earnings a couple of days ago. They actually did better than expected, in my opinion, on EPS and revenue. Forecasts were not too bad, at least for the month of March, and that's why we're still seeing them hold up. Despite this news right here that Barclays just cut its price target on NIO, they're now saying that they reiterated. So Deutsche Bank was saying $9 is what their target was, but Barclays analysts lowered their target to $5 from 8. So kind of mixed overall sentiment, but Barclays did downgrade NIO to $5 as their price target instead of 8. And that's really a big difference. Now, when it comes to other pieces of news, volume was about 78 million versus the average volume of about 54 million. And we're not really seeing much else changing right here. Short volume is actually coming down just a little bit. Besides that, JP Morgan still has an underweight rating right now, at least for NIO. Nothing's changing from there. The price price ratio is bouncing a little bit as NIO is gaining some strength. And historically, Thursdays are not the strongest days. We're only green about 51% of the time. And that's it for now. We're not really seeing much changing. Now, despite the big decline we saw in EV sales in China, NIO is still making a big comeback, and they're doing very, very well. But I do want to call out the fact that SPY has a possible head and shoulders like structure that's developing right now. So we'll see if this leads to some kind of sell off or not. But we do have Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow, so there could be another pop coming. But overall, the chart does have a risk of falling, especially if we lose the low of the day from today at 508.5. If we lose that, a big drop is coming back down to 505, in my opinion. So be very, very careful. We could get a little pop here and there thanks to Powell. For us to remain bullish, we have to try to break 512 and continue to hold. If we fail to do so, a bigger drop is coming, and this chart does kind of suggest that. So please be very careful. Could be one more pop before we continue lower off this head and shoulders. There's also this gap down here, which adds as a confluence for more potential downside. Tesla's very weak right now, continuing to sink. The reason Tesla's sinking is because we got more bad news. As we got a big downgrade by many analysts, they're not as bullish as before. And there's a lot of bad news involving Berlin. So it's still on a downtrend. There's no sign of Tesla bouncing quite yet. And it's continuing to sink in a very, very weak manner. There's also a bearish wedge that's potentially forming, which means there could be more downside. We could see this thing fall all the way down to 172, if not 168. So Tesla's looking a bit more bearish to me. For something else like Supermicro, I know a lot of people are interested in this. This is still holding up decently, but be careful of this 1169 area. We're not that far from the all-time high. But with this bearish divergence, we could see this come down to 1050. So watch for a little sell-off, which is a real possibility. For Apple, it was trying to bounce and it failed to get that bounce. It's still kind of like trying to base around the 169 area, but I could see it slowly decline to 168 flat, then 167.5. So I still see a downtrend being established. It's still breaking its lows, and it's not showing the strength we want to see. So this could slow down even more. For the QQQ, this was a little bit green, but just be a little bit careful because, as you guys can see, this kind of resembles a very, very sloppy looking, excuse me, head and shoulders. If you look at the smaller time frames, such as the 5 minute time frame, you guys can see this a little bit more clearly about how this is actually looking. So I would still warn you to be kind of careful with the way the QQQ has been moving. This is rejecting at a lower high, and we have a possible head and shoulders like structure as well right here on the 5 minute time frame. We could get one more pop. We could actually push to 440 again. Then there is a risk of this continuing lower, especially after Jerome Powell's speech. We also have this gap down here, so we have a head and shoulders and the gap below, which is not a good signal, which does suggest downside's a possibility. For Nvda, although Nvda was trying to push, you guys can see how it pushed and pushed and pushed. There's a bearish divergence, and we have tough resistance at 9. So this could lead the market down, especially when you look at the 30 minutes time frame. On the 30 minutes time frame, there's a clear head and shoulders like structure. This thing could pop one more time and then come back down. If we lose 884, look for excuse me, a drop towards 873. So there is a risk of some downside for that. With that being said, guys, the market looks like it may turn a little bit. NIO is holding up nicely, even on its 4-hour time frame. But please be warned that we're approaching some tough resistance of 5.9 when we rejected multiple times. It is possible that NIO tests resistance, but if we have to break 5.91 to remain bullish, if we break it, 6.2 is coming. If we reject again, like we did previously, NIO could actually see a little red day and come back down to 5.6. So I think what could happen is NIO might come down a little bit to 5.6, bounce a little bit, make an attempt to test 5.9, and we'll have to see if it could break or not. So look for a little drop and then a bounce. And if we fail to get that break, we could end up failing. If we do break, we could push higher. This is a tough resistance. We rejected here 3 times, so we'll see how NIO does at 5.91. So look for a little drop tomorrow morning, then a little bounce, and we'll see if NIO could break. If it fails, we could start to turn, so just be careful. The trend is still kind of strong as this thing is trying to uptrend, so there's a chance that it might actually bounce and push up to 6.17. But let's see if it breaks 5.9 first. Look for a drop and bounce, and if we do break that, then 6.2 could come, technically speaking. And then if that comes, watch the 200 EMA as resistance. What I predict is going to happen, though, is we come down and then bounce, break 5.9 and hit 6.2, but then we could reject off 6.2 later on. So that's what I'm seeing for NIO, a little drop and pop, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, guys. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.